Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 103. I am JP Dinnell. As always, I have Lucas with me. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Dude, last week's episode.
Oh, with Roman?
Yeah.
Unreal. What a freaking unit, too.
Yeah.
Just one awesome thing after another.
Yeah. Man, his mindsets for just life and business and jiu-jitsu, he is well above what most 29-year-olds are thinking in regards to life. Most, I remember, I was 29. I was starting that sales job. I was out at a family, and so I was forced to be in a different mindset. Yeah. Not saying that in a bad way. Like, it was a great thing. Wife, kids, family, like, come on, man. That's the dream. But, he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to be thinking about all of those things. So,
cool.
where I was then, I had just come back from the mission field. I had started a gig here at this church and was kind of trying to figure out what the future was going to hold, but had no clue what, long-term plans and things were going to be. I certainly wasn't building a business or anything, at least not in my own eyes at that point.
Yeah, and what's crazy also is like him as an athlete, high-level athlete, just phenom, and doing obviously very well in jiu-jitsu, has the potential to do incredible things in jiu-jitsu, especially because of his physical capabilities. You can tell his IQ is very high.
Yeah.
Very, very, very high
For
IQ.
sure.
So he's physically capable. He has a high IQ. He has the understanding of how to apply the knowledge of what he's learning in jiu-jitsu. And now he's training under John Danaher and Gordon Ryan. Like, that's a dream for
it's pretty rad.
Jiu-jitsu practitioners that want to compete in no-gi jiu-jitsu at a high level.
Yeah.
He's got it, and he's not sure what jiu-jitsu is going to come about next because his priority right now is building his business, and I think that's really cool. Like I said last week, the selfish side of me is like, man, I want to watch him compete at a high level because I think it would be fun to watch, and it would be a lot to learn. You can learn a lot from him. But I think he also is understanding, like, hey, he's in a season of his life where if he can capture this time and be disciplined with his time, he can do some good things. I also liked how he communicated. It was very simple, clear, and concise. His ability to communicate was, I thought, very high level. And I'm willing to bet his clients that he coaches are on the receiving end of that benefit to him being able to communicate.
That would be something I'd be super appreciative of, especially in like an online coach.
Yeah. My buddy Justin, who now works for Echelon Front, who used to do coaching for Man and I and, started 360 Fitness. That was what made me absolutely love what he does. And then if you look at Jason Klepa's app that I have and I follow some of those workouts, it's very simple, clear, and concise. Like, hey, this is what you have access to. This is what you do. And there's a lot of different options. It's the same thing that Jonathan and Ann do with First in Nutrition.
Yep.
Their coaching is very simple, clear, and concise. And that's why at, Jocko and Leif, when they wrote Extreme Ownership, they included the laws of combat. It could have been a bunch of different war stories, and it could have been a lot of cool stories, but they knew that they had to provide value based off of what they were already teaching. And what they were teaching was based off of a similar brief to what Jocko and Leif were giving to the junior officers, which was based around these leadership principles that Jocko created. We now call them the laws of combat, but they weren't called the laws of combat back then. It was just a Jocko brief. And then, Leif, when he was teaching the junior officers, how to lead, was incorporating those things. And, the second law of combat is simple. And I know we've talked about cover and move. We've actually talked about all of the laws of combat briefly over the times, and we've had some people ask us to dive deeper into it. And I know we talked about cover and move, but, the second law of combat, simple, is a very important law of combat that helps you build upon cover and move. And they're in order for a reason. Without cover and move, which is relationships, then everything falls apart.
Yep.
But once you have this opportunity to build relationships, your communication has to be effective. Your ability to lead, your communication has to be effective. Your ability to follow, your communication, and the communication you receive needs to be simple, clear, and concise. But also, when you're trying to get alignment and clarity, you need to be able to communicate in a manner that's simple, clear, and concise. And a legitimate skill set that we talk about is active listening.
Yeah.
is the ability to listen. And that's a part of the second law of combat, which is simple, because in order for me to be able to communicate and or go execute based off of conversation we had or a brief that you're giving me or a layout or the plan of the day, I have to be able to listen, process, break it down, and then be able to go execute.
Right. 100%. And, that's one of the things I think that often gets overlooked is that simple is not just about giving orders. It's about communication across the board.
Yes.
Because in a training setting, there's nothing worse than knowing that, like, hey, I've got an hour with my personal trainer and they spend 45 minutes trying to explain something to you and waste your time and money because they chose to tell an irrelevant story or to make it their social time when you really needed, that was the time you had allotted and you had paid for to get some good instruction to help you be better.
Yeah. And then also, like, okay, you're married, I'm married. It's really important that we're able to communicate with our spouses in a simple, clear, and concise manner.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what do you want? You want alignment. Have you ever had too much alignment with somebody that it caused a problem?
No.
It's usually lack of alignment that causes problems.
Yup.
So, that's something that we have to think about, and we have to be intentional. Everything that we teach at Echelon Front is a skill set. Leadership is a skill set. Listening is a skill set. Communication is a skill set. Detaching from your emotions is a skill set. Building relationships is a skill set. Empowering the people around you is a skill set. Being empowered and being able to execute with confidence is a skill set. Taking ownership is a skill set. Being default aggressive is a skill set. Understanding how to implement discipline upon yourself to give you freedom is a skill set. The act of being humble is a skill set because it's something that you can learn to do and you can continuously get better at doing. The ability to innovate and adapt and think differently and open up your mind, that's a skill set as well.
100%.
And so what we have to be able to do is, if we're trying to improve our ability to lead, we have to be more open-minded. We have to listen to the people around us. We have to be intentional with our communication. And that's why simple is the second law of combat. And I know we've gotten some questions around these things. Is there any questions that you have that you're thinking about that you want us to dive into?
Well, the thing was, on episode 100, we said, hey, listen, we want this podcast to be what you guys want it to be. We were asked by a few people, hey, let's go over the laws of combat. We did cover a move a few weeks ago. And so now we're into this. When we think about simple in particular, as it's the first supportive law of combat to the first law of combat being cover and move, how much does communication affect your ability to cover and move? Because cover and move is the intention to build relationships and to do things to make sure that you're keeping everybody elevated across the board, that everybody's able to kind of do the tasks that they need to do. How much does simple communication play a role in the effectiveness of cover and move?
I mean, it's absolutely paramount. Like, if I don't have good, simple, clear, and concise communication, I'm not going to be able to build a relationship. I'm not going to be able to actually do things that you need help with because, one, I'm not going to be listening properly. I'm not going to communicate properly. And also, if you think about it in regards to cover and move, how are you supposed to help me if I don't communicate to you in an effective manner as to what I need and why I need it and how it's important and how it affects the mission? If I cannot communicate to other people what I have going on, what I need, why it's important, how it impacts the mission, positively and negatively if we do or don't do certain things. If I can't do those things, then what's the likelihood that people are just going to know what I need and just go do those things?
It's zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to be intentional with communicating to people in regards to what we have going on. One of the things that I love that we did in the SEAL teams was, they had the morning muster meeting up, right? It's a gathering of the troops. That's what muster means. And so our leadership would get together, and sometimes it would be a whole muster of the whole group, or sometimes it might just be the leadership, or it might just be a certain group. It just always changed. But the intent behind meeting up every single day was, hey, what's going on? What do you guys need help with?
Yeah.
And that is so important. We have a handful of clients now. Groundworks, one of our longest clients that we've been working with at Echelon Front, they're a basement and foundational repair company. nationwide, that we do a good amount of FTXs, the field training exercises that we run at Echelon Front with. They implemented a thing called cover and move meetings, where once a week, I believe it's on Mondays, they have the meeting is just about cover and move. What's going on and what do you need help with? So it's an opportunity for you to share, okay, hey, here's what we're working on. Here's where I'm short. Or, hey, here's what we're working on. Hey, we're ahead of schedule and I have extra people who need something. I think it's just, that's a culture.
That's cool, man.
That is really cool. That's what we would do in the SEAL teams. Because there's times that my leadership would come back from that meeting and they would say, hey guys, so-and-so in land warfare, his wife is going into labor early. He's going to miss this next land warfare trip. They're going to be down an instructor with this quals. Are any of you guys capable of covering down on that? And guys would be like, yep. Or no, hey, sorry, I can't. Or, be like, hey, we have an overlap of this trip. We're not going to be able to cover down the first 2 weeks, but hey, someone from mobility is going to be able to cover down. Is there anybody here that can go out there for the last 2 to 3 weeks? And it was just this, it was just cool. It was a part of our culture of like, hey, the mission is much bigger than our little department. Yeah. The mission is to train and equip our guys to go overseas to close with and destroy the enemy and come home alive. That's what we always had. And I think a lot of companies, the struggles that they have is understanding big picture. What are you trying to do? What's the mission? And if we can understand what that mission is and big picture what we're trying to do, and then understand cover, move, understand one team, one fight mentality, then it helps us be more concise with our communication because we want alignment. You want to win. You want your teammates to win. You want your leadership to win. You want to win for your leadership. And the only way to do that is through alignment. Yeah. You have to have this understanding of what are you trying to accomplish? Why is it so important? And we have to be simple, clear, and concise with our communication so that we can get those things done. And it's something, obviously the bigger, stronger, longer relationship that you have with somebody, these things are going to just come a little bit easier. Right. The conversations that you and I have are much easier and healthier and more effective than when we first met because we didn't know each other and it was just basic communication. And, I think we were put in a group text from Isaac at the beginning and it was like,
which
all
was
right.
disastrous.
No, it wasn't.
No, I mean, in the sense of like, it was just a bunch of guys trying to get to know each other over group text.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
And, and so, you have that until now. It's like, okay, cool. We have conversations. You know what I'm thinking. I know what you're thinking. I've walked in sometimes and you just read my body language and you know what's going on. You know whether it's good or bad. And, I know the same with you. And, and so as those relationships are built and get stronger, communication does and can get easier. Doesn't always. I think it can get easier and more efficient and more effective if you're intentional with your actual communication and building that relationship. But this is something that you can start doing right away to achieve alignment. One of the things that we teach in the SEAL teams and we teach at Echelon Front is a tool called the read back. And the read back is an opportunity for us to get alignment after a conversation, a meeting, a brief, whatever it is. And, this is something we would do. And it was a part of our culture in the SEAL team, so we just knew that it was going to happen. One of the things that I tell clients when I'm working with them at Echelon Front, if you're going to implement a readback for the first time, you should tell your people before you do it, because you don't want to just get done with the conversation and be like, hey, Lucas, I just want to make sure my communication was clear and concise. I want to make sure we're on the same page and I understand what you're going to do so I can support you and the team. Hey, could you brief back to me what we just talked about and what you're going to be doing? If I do that afterwards, even though my intent is pure and I want you and I to have alignment and I want to make sure my communication was good and I want to make sure I'm supporting you, is there a small percentage chance still that you think I did that to see if you were paying attention and listening?
Bro, I think it's more than a small percentage chance. Like they totally feel like they were called out.
Okay. Does that help or hinder the relationship?
It hurts.
Yeah. So that's a withdrawal, not a deposit?
100%.
Okay. So, but if I told you ahead of time, hey, Lucas, I need your help. I've been trying to work on my communication. to be more simple, clear, and concise. When we get done with today's brief, I'm going to call on you and a few other people to brief back their portion of the plan, what they're doing, how they're doing it, so that I can make sure my communication is clear and so I can have understanding how to support you. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions. If you want to go grab a notebook to take notes, feel free. We have a few minutes before the meeting gets started. And if something doesn't make sense, just please let me know and we'll talk through it. What's the likelihood you're paying a little more attention now?
100%.
Okay. What about everybody else, knowing that I might call upon a few other people?
Well, I think especially after that first one, right? Like having the first person that you call upon, because even if everybody else in the room doesn't know what you're going to do, they're going to start taking notes off of what that first guy said, rightly or wrongly, and kind of listen to your feedback to make sure that they're ready.
Yeah,
because even if they weren't paying attention in the meeting, as soon as somebody gets called on, now all of a sudden they're really interested.
And if somebody wasn't, that's an extreme situation that you now need to kind of dig into a little bit more, because if you told people, hey, boom, this is what we're doing, and they're still not listening and paying attention, again, this is through the lens of extreme ownership. I don't do the readback so that you listen.
Yeah.
I do the readback to make sure my communication is simple, clear, and concise. And if I tell people I'm going to do the readback and there's still people not listening and paying attention, there's a few red flags that have popped up that I need to start digging into. Yeah. One, what's my relationship like with these people? It's obviously not as good as I thought it was.
Right.
Because if I had a good, solid relationship, when I'm talking and putting out a plan of the day, what's most people are going to be doing if you have a good relationship with and they respect you?
Yeah, they're going to be taking notes.
They're going to be listening.
What's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So this also just gives me a few indicators of like, oh, okay, maybe things aren't as good as I want to. So again, recap on simple. The big thing that we have to think about is it clear? Is it concise? Can they execute? Can the people go do what you need them to do based off of the conversation? And, there's a lot of times in combat that communication gets muddy, that the fog of war is real. And same thing in training. And we would try to simulate that in training to teach people why it's so critical to have clear communication with their people. One of the things also, like when I'm teaching shooting, I need to make sure my communication is very simple, clear, and concise. I have to break it down to the lowest common denominator. And that's not an insult to who I'm teaching or who I'm talking to, but I need to talk in a manner that's universal. And if I can talk in a manner that's universal, that's simple, clear, and concise, then that's going to probably help me with some progression and growth.
Yeah. There was an acronym that made its way around years ago, TMI, right? Too much information, which is often like when people start to give like way personal stuff. It's like, oh, how was your doctor's appointment? Oh, it was great, but I found out that I've got this and this infection, and he looked at this area, and you're like, right, TMI, right? But it also applies particularly when we're looking at the laws of combat, is if we're doing cover and move and I need somebody, I'm like, hey, all right, so I've got to break away. I've got to go do this. And I need you to cover what I was doing. Sure, no problem. If somebody says, hey, I'm going to break away and go do this, but I have to do it because of this reason, and I'm going to do this, and here's my plan, and blah, blah, blah. Well, now I've got too much information. Now, what was supposed to be simple, clear, and concise, what was going to be good cover and move, has now become completely convoluted, and I've lost the point in all of that. And what that does is it begins to stop the machinery of everything down, because now I've lost my ability to cover for you, because I'm stuck paying attention to your story and then trying to figure out if do I play a role in this or not. And we've got a good relationship, so I'm not going to cut you off. And now nothing is getting done. And we've, instead of done good cover and move because we weren't simple and clear and concise with our communication, now what we've done is we've created this pocket of confusion where now nothing's going. Yeah.
One of the things that I would talk about at Echelon Front is like, hey, do you guys think in the middle of a gunfight I have time for a long, drawn out, elaborate game plan?
Probably not.
No, the answer is no, not at all. And, there's multiple times like while, and you learn this in training, and then luckily you do it well in training, you can apply it in combat, right? That's why discipline equals freedom is a very real thing. We're very disciplined in our training, and that gave us freedom on the battlefield. And, there was times, I remember this one time, there was multiple times, I mean, this happened a lot on our deployment to Ar Ramadi, where, we're patrolling on the streets, we get in a gunfight, and it's like, all right, cool, what are we going to do? You have to react to the contact, and, like guys are laying down cover fire, and I just yelled across the street to one of the guys who was a soldier, right? So he's not a SEAL. We hadn't trained together. We really hadn't worked a lot together at this point. And I just like yelled across. I'm like, hey, keep laying down cover fire. I'm going to push that truck. I'll start shooting. You push the rock pile, and we'll move down and flank them. Very basic call. And the guy, because he's a soldier and he's trained, because he's in the military, and this is a common thing that the military trains, is, making sure that you have alignment. So the reback. And so he just yells across the street back to me, because, we have guys on either side that are still shooting, laying down cover fire, keeping those enemy fighters, heads behind the walls or around the corner so they're not coming back out. And he was like, Raj, I'll shoot, you move, you shoot, I move. And so it's like, yep. Cool.
Yeah, done.
Simple, clear, and concise. And we were able to move down and flank these enemy fighters and eliminate them. And it strengthened our relationship. And so one of the things that we also have to think about is what is the minimal amount required to communicate? That's a challenge we should all think about. What is the minimal amount required to communicate? And whatever you think it is, try to break it down from there even more. Because in our mind, we are still going to add things that we think are super important, that we think are critical, that, man, if Lucas just knew what I knew, if he just knew what I knew, he would understand at a better level, he'd execute at a better level, he'd be better, he'd be safer, he'd be like, we tell ourselves these things. And I'm sure you as a pastor, you struggle with this all the time because there are so many great things that you could add into your sermons. But if you did, you could muddy the waters, and the main point that's a part of your series could be diluted and lost. And I know you deal with this.
Yep. One of my really good friends trains pastors. His name is Dr. Chris Respis.
Trains pastors?
He does. He trains
That's
pastors.
awesome.
Yeah. He's
Did I meet him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chris is, they have a leadership institute that they do at their church.
Yes.
And they have, he came out to, one of the trainings that you did.
The last one that we did.
Yeah.
He sat up at the top with you.
Yep. So Chris, one of the exercises they do is that they have 12 minutes to give a sermon. They give them a text, and they have 12 minutes to get a sermon. And when the 12 minutes is up, it doesn't matter where you are, it's over. And everybody gives you the feedback of what they learned from you in those 12 minutes.
Bro, I just had to do that a few weeks ago with Argyle High School.
Dude.
One of the pastors, Pastor Steve Chestnut from Milestone, we just opened a new location in Argyle. He asked me, he's like, hey, would you come talk with the high school football team? 15-minute. And he said all the stuff he wanted me to cram in 15 minutes. And I was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah, no kidding.
Holy
right?
cow. But anyways, it was a cool experience. Sorry.
But that in the training thing, the importance of knowing, like having that clock running, and then, at 12 minutes, they shut off the mic, that it's over. Your time's up. And now you get the feedback of like, oh, cool. You went over this. You never actually got to the point. Yeah, this is a bunch of cool information, but nobody's getting saved because of what you say, because you never actually got to it. And so it's a pretty rough exercise, but it highlights the importance of being simple, of not cramming in all of that information. Because the truth of the matter is that most of the people 1 and 2 levels below you don't need all of the information that you had to give to the people 1 and 2 levels above you in order to make things happen.
Yeah.
That, you are the keeper of all of that information for a reason. It's because you've got to work both up and down the chain of command in order to get things to work.
Yeah. When I was teaching long range shooting a while ago, helping out, my buddy had a company, or it still does. They do long range shooting for hunters. And so I was going out there and helping them out. And one of the things that people get confused on long range shooting is when you're giving them wind holds. All right. So, so the wind is, obviously it can come in at 90 degrees. There's different angles. There's a lot of different variables. I'm going to really try to not dive into this.
Yeah.
Because,
to be simple.
Yeah, but I really want to talk about that
because
I love calling wind and holds and the science behind all that stuff when it comes to shooting. But for this story, I'll keep it as minimal as I can. But we want to teach people how to compensate for the wind. So if the wind is coming from the right to the left, so you're looking down your gun, looking down your scope at the target, if the wind is blowing from the right to the left, depending on how hard and strong the wind is blowing, and depending on how long the distance is, and depending on the round that you're shooting, will vary of your hold. And so, we're having to teach people how to do these things. So if the wind is coming from the right to the left, that means it's going to blow your bullet or push. I shouldn't blow. It's going to Shut up, nerd.
Sorry to all of our listeners who just hear us blow into the microphones.
It's going to push your round towards the left. And depending on how hard it's pushing it, depending on how long of a distance that is, it could push your round off the target. So we would say, hold to the right. Most people understand that means that you hold 1 minute of angle to the right. Most people know that you're moving your crosshairs. So if you have let's say you have a dot on the very center of that target, and you're holding your crosshairs dead center. That means you want to take that part of your optic and push it to the right, so that the first little hash mark on your optics, let's just say it is in 1 minute of angle increments.
Right.
So MOA, which is minute of angle, it's a measurement, right?
Yeah.
So we push the hash, so you're holding to the right 1 minute of angle.
Right.
Or 1 mil, whatever. Okay. I know some people are like, you're not talking about mils. Okay, cool. Whatever unit of measurement you're using in your optic.
Yeah. There's imperial, and then there's all the centers.
So you push, hold 1 minute of angle to the right. Most people know, okay, so you're taking that center of the optic and you're pushing it to the right. So whatever that first little hash mark, that's now dead center.
Okay.
All right. Not everybody knows that.
Sure.
Because, what I realized some of the shooters were doing, they're holding dead center on that first hash mark to the right.
Oh.
Very simple. That's a very easy mistake to make if you're not used to it. And so what I recognized is that mistake was happening, because I was like, wait, how are you off target? I'm like, hey, explain to me what you just did. I didn't, obviously I'm teaching shooting, right? Yeah. I'm not going to get mad, which is crazy. There are some instructors that will lose their mind on their students. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And then they wonder why their business struggles. Anyways, side note. And so that was definitely not my buddies. My buddies didn't do that. Yeah. They are super professional. Yeah. Super
squared away.
That's why I chose.
Tony Cowden's not yelling at people for missing the target.
Or my buddy Steve Arian or Greg. Like, those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Eric and all those guys that taught with them that I met. Great humans. And so I was asking, I'm like, hey, so what did you do? And so I drew it up on a little piece of cardboard that I grabbed from an ammo box. I said, all right, here's a target. Where did you put your optic? And they showed me. They're like, you said hold right, 1 minute of angle. So I held the right side 1 minute. I was like, cool, awesome. I was like, hey, I'm sorry about that. And I corrected it. And so since that moment on, I've always said, push your optics to the right 1 minute of angle from center.
Yeah.
Push, right? And so I'll also, and even if it's for somebody for the very first time, I'll show them. I'll literally show them what it looks like. Hey, you have dead center of the target, or this is a vital area of the animal that you're trying to hit. Take your optics, put the crosshairs dead center, and I want you to push that dead center crosshair to the right 1 minute of angle, or 2 minutes of angle. And I want it to be on the second hash mark from the center to the left, right? Yeah. So we have dead center. It's moving to the right slowly. You have 1 minute of angle, 2 minute of angle. Once that second minute of angle hash mark on the left side of the center of the crosshair is holding where you want the bullet to impact. I want you to slowly pull the trigger, right? And I'll walk them through it, and all of a sudden it's
process,
like,
right?
boom, dink, dead center hit.
Beauty.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are people that know how to shoot that don't know how to teach. They don't know how to communicate in a manner that's simple, clear, and concise. I've shot with some incredible shooters, like some incredible shooters that could not teach people to even come close to what they should be being able to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being arrogant with this, but this is a fact. When I was teaching with Steve and Greg and Eric and all these guys with their thing, we would get people, and I had every single one of my shooters every single time do this. They are hitting steel at 1,000 yards at the end of day one.
That's awesome.
People that have never shot past 100, 200 yards before. And then we have it to where they're shooting multiple targets at multiple distances, practicing their holds, overs, and unders while holding wind. And so then day two, it's like, all right, cool. Now we're shooting vitals of an animal at 150 yards. Freaking easy.
Easy. Yeah, it's a lot.
And
of work.
I still have clients that I put through the shooting that will text me after they go on these big successful hunts, sending me pictures of their animals. Like, hey,
That's
still
cool.
applying what you taught us. So when we're thinking about how we're communicating, we have to ask good questions to understand the perspective of the people that we're talking to so that we can better equip them. That's the goal.
Yeah.
The goal of you communicating to somebody is for you both. When I say you, I don't mean just you, but you as a team to win.
Yeah.
If you're my student, I want you to win. If you're my boss, I want you to win. If you're my peer, I want you to win. If you're my spouse, I want you to win. If you're my kids, I want you to win. So how do we help people win? Well, we improve our communication, make sure it's simple, clear, and concise so that they can execute and do these things in the right manner. Yeah. The reback also will save you a lot of heartache, a lot of headache. I had a client reach out, and I know we're getting ready to wrap this up, but I had a client reach out one time after a workshop, and we did a half-day workshop. Then it was with a big commercial construction company. The superintendents, they go back to their crews, and one of the superintendents goes back to the crew because I challenged them. I was like, hey, take what you like from the training and just talk to your people about it and say, hey, this is what I took from the training. This is what I'd like to implement. I said, as we all know, knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge allows you to do powerful things. And that's what I really like. Ronan didn't say that, but that's what he said.
Yeah, that's what he got.
That was his
idea
message.
He came to his conclusion.
For sure. Absolutely. And I love the way he applied that to jiu-jitsu. So I challenge leaders all the time, like, hey, take one or two things back to your people and just implement it. Try it out. Try it out for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If it doesn't work, text me, call me, email me. Like, we'll figure it out. I haven't had anybody ever come back to me and say, hey, the reback doesn't work. Not once.
Yeah.
Like, not once in 9 years.
It does work.
Because it works. So anyways, this guy goes back to his crew. He rolls it out and says, hey, one of the things, I'm phrasing what he said. Hey, one of the things I want to work on is my communication. I want to make sure we have alignment. When we get done with the brief today, I'm going to have a few of you guys, and he named out a few guys, brief back to me what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, so we can make sure we have alignment. So he sends me a message on Instagram. Like, I think it was the next day because he said it's the other day. I'm assuming it was the next day. And he says, hey, that reback saved us a couple $100,000. Thank you. And I reply, I'm like, dude, that's incredible. Like, can you give me a little more information? So he tells me
a little bit of that savings.
Yeah, commission based. No. And so he tells me that he rolled out the reback to his guys and they're going to start debriefing. Just those two things. That's all he was going to focus on. He calls on one of his foremen, who's one of his really good foremen, guy's a stud, to brief back what they were going to be doing. And he told me that because they're such a large group and they are very decentralized, that if this foreman would have moved forward with the plan that he thought he needed to be working on, it would have cost him a couple $100,000 in rework.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then so as I'm going on and talking with this guy and going back and forth, I'm educated on the fact that a lot of large commercial construction companies budget into their jobs hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of rework because these things happen. Not because anybody wants to make a mistake, but they just happen.
Yeah.
And he was able to fix it and correct it. And he apologized. He took ownership. He was like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I wasn't clear on that. That's on me. We actually need to be doing boom, boom, boom. Here's why. Hey, go and write that down. Brief it back to me. Let's make sure we're on the same page with this. And this guy didn't take that as micromanagement. The guy was thankful that they did that. The guy was like writing it down. They had alignment. They moved forward. So this guy also reaches out to all the other superintendents and says, hey, the readback saved us this. It's a non-negotiable for my crew. We're doing that and the debriefs. The rest of the crews, they understand the value of it. They start implementing it as well. They get done with this big job. They're ahead of schedule. They're under budget. Their safety score improved. The culture improved. And then what a lot of these companies, which is cool, is they go off those metrics for bonuses.
Yep. I was going to say that is cash money, baby.
Yeah. So now their people are getting their bonuses. What do you think that does for the culture and morale?
Oh, through the roof.
What do you think it does for retention in a very competitive market?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm staying here. You can give me $5 more an hour. Like, that's cool. But I know I'm going to hit my bonuses for the next 6 months on these jobs.
And you're going to be safer. Mm-hmm. So what's the cost of that?
Yeah.
So if you know you work at a very safe company, like you're going to, you might get some offers and be like, nah, it ain't worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth an extra whatever because I'm
all of that stuff.
Yeah. So these are all the things that they're calculating. And then also it helps with the recruitment.
Oh, no doubt.
Because now these guys are talking to other guys in the industry going, man, I'm hitting my bonus. The culture here is awesome. Like, I love going to work. We're safe, all these things. And now people are like wanting to go work for these companies. So it's a powerful tool.
That's rad. So I got 3 other things that I want to touch on that have to do with Simple, and we'll see what time allots.
Okay.
The first is this: how does simple communication change up and down the chain of command? Because we talked about it a second ago that the people above you need different information than the people below you do. Whenever you're in those middle spots. So how does simple communication change up and down the chain of command?
It doesn't. It's going to change on the individual, but the principle of simplifying your communication never goes out the window. That will evolve based off the relationship that you have with the person and their proficiency in doing their job.
Yep.
Amanda and I will communicate to Aiden in a different manner than the girls because he's older and he has different life experiences. It's the same thing between Aiden and Hayden with talking. We're like encouraging Hayden to start get his learner's permit and all these things. And I know Josh Strasburger is working with his oldest son on learning to drive as well. And so those are different conversations than we would have with Aiden. Aiden is just like, hey bud, love you. Remember, drive safe, stay off your phone. You're responsible. I'll never stop saying those things,
right?
But I don't have to walk through a checklist of things with Aiden.
Do you have gas? Is your insurance in your car?
I don't have to do all those things anymore. And so what we communicate will change up, down, and across the chain of command, but the manner should not. It's still, what's the minimal amount required to communicate effectively? And keyword is effectively.
Yeah. And even if somebody's asking for more information, and that's one of the things, people are like, well, it's different. I can't be simple with my boss because he wants so much stuff. Be simple in the way that you communicate all of that information.
Yeah.
He or she may want more information, but that doesn't mean that you need to get convoluted in the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Part of the reason your meetings with your bosses are so long is because you're giving them a bunch of extra stuff they don't need.
Yeah.
On all 5 of the projects they've got you working on or need you to manage.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Just be simple across the board. Next, how does being simple set up prioritizing and executing?
Well, it's hard to prioritize and execute if you're confused.
Oh, man.
So
I think that's one of the craziest things. Is like, well, I can't be simple unless I know how to prioritize and execute the things. It's like, well, if you're not simple in the way you communicate, nobody's going to know how to prioritize and execute.
Yeah.
So one law of combat feeds the other. And the last one is this, and this is a question that we've gotten a few times from some different people, and we've had sort of different ways of approaching it, but I think that it really belongs in this conversation.
Okay.
And that is this. Maybe I've got too good of a relationship with somebody and not enough alignment. Maybe my relationship with this person has become just a little bit too familiar. And so when we're in meetings and I'm trying to simplify things, they feel like they already know what I'm going to say or that they've already been briefed about the project, so they're not paying attention. And now it's causing issues with my communication.
So start implementing the readback and tell them that you're going to do that and take ownership. Hey, Lucas, I know we've been working together for the last 15 years and man, it's been awesome. Hey, one of the things I haven't done a good job at is making sure that we maintain alignment. I've made assumptions in the past that you knew what I was talking about. I didn't give you enough information. I didn't make sure that we were on the same page. So, hey, when we get done with these meetings, I'm going to start I'm going to start giving us the opportunity to have a back and forth conversation afterwards to make sure that we both are in alignment with each other. So when we get done with this brief, I'm going to have you brief back to me what you heard me say to make sure I'm communicating clearly. And if you have any questions for anything that I'm putting out, awesome. And if I have any questions for anything that you're putting out, I'm going to, ask those same questions. And when you get done with your brief, I'm going to also brief it back to you. So is that something that we could start doing? I really want to fix this. This is 100% on me.
Done deal.
Cool.
And it's one of those things too, that like, especially if people in the office know that you've got a good relationship with this person and they know that like, maybe this is your go-to guy or, that if they're the one that you start with when you implement these things, everyone else will take it more seriously.
Yeah. And the other thing, I've also had people that I've had a phenomenal relationship with, and they don't do this in a negative manner, but if I'm like running through a conversation or a brief or whatever, they interrupt me. And again, it's not an intentional thing, but I've had this happen like at work before in the past at another organization. And I just finally I was like, okay, they're not doing it to be a jerk. Clearly they're not, and so I started thinking about it. And so what I implemented is I just asked them like, hey, can you do me a huge favor? I was like, I get distracted really easily. So I actually have the things I need to talk about written out. Let me get through the first 3 points and then I'm going to pause and then we can talk through it and then I'll finish it off. Is that fair? So I'll do that with people at times. If I just know that they're going to interrupt me, not to be rude, but they do it because they're excited or whatever else like that. I'll just ask them like, hey, could you help me out? I get distracted easily. This is an important conversation. I just want to make sure I get my points off so that we can have a good conversation. So there's 3 things I want to talk about really quickly, and then let's open it up, and then I have 1 thing to close it out with, and then whatever you have, is that fair? And so what I'm doing is I'm taking preemptive ownership over controlling that conversation and knowing that they're excited to talk and or they just have stuff to say. And when I've done that before, it's forced them, and I don't mean that in a bad way or a manipulation way, but it's helped them pause and listen. And then we have the back and forth conversation.
Yeah. And, you've mentioned a couple of times how we've implemented this, both of us at home. I cannot tell you how impactful simple, clear, and concise communication becomes when you've got kids.
Yeah.
And especially, like in our situation right now, a 3-year-old and an almost 18-month-old. And they both want mom and dad's attention. And we both have things that have to get done, not just like in order for us to do whatever we want to do, but also to feed the kids that are screaming for our attention and wanting to do stuff, or they've just decided that they're going to grab grips and one's got the collars and one's got the shoulders and they're just pushing each other back and forth, which I will say super excited about, because if they each develop the game they're working on right now, they've got the potential to really go a long way.
Jiu-Jitsu? Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. So, all that's great. But if we get stuck in the minutia of trying to deal with everything that we're seeing and processing all of that, out loud with each other, instead of saying, this, dinner's about to burn. Can you take care of this? That's easy. Game over. Yeah. I can drop what I'm doing. I'm at a stopping place. Go. It's massive in the home, it's massive in business, and really, really impactful in friendships, because you can save a lot of the confusion and the danger that you walk into in your relationships by being misunderstood, by being simple, clear, and concise.
And my final thoughts on this before you close it out is this is on you. This is not on the other person to communicate in a simple, clear, and concise manner. This is not on my wife to say, hey, I need this help. I should have a good enough relationship to recognize little red flags that, oh, she needs help. And that's one of the things I've been trying to work on, is understand when I need to be asking more questions. Hey, what do you need help with? Hey, is there something I can do? And just allowing my wife to have the opportunity to share things with me that maybe she didn't think about asking or talking about, or she's overwhelmed, or maybe she didn't want to put something else on my plate. And it's like, no, one team, one fight, babe. Like, let's work through this together.
100%.
It's on you, not on them.
Well, thank you guys for watching, for subscribing, for listening to the podcast. Today's episode was one that you asked for, and so we did it. If you want to continue to be a part of the conversation and to help us make this podcast the best that it can be for you, go follow us on Instagram. JP is at JP Dinnell. That's 2 N's, 2 L's. I'm at Lucas Pinkert and at JP Dinnell Podcast. Shoot us a message and let us know what you want us to cover. We've got the other laws of combat coming up. Maybe we'll do the mindsets of victory, what you guys want. That's what we'll do. Also, if you're over there on Instagram, go check out our friends over at First In Nutrition. You can go to firstinnutrition.com/JPpod and get 4 free weeks of some of the best nutrition coaching on the planet, where you will see Jonathan and Ann and their other coaches be simple, clear, and concise in making sure that you meet your fitness and nutrition goals. Always, this stuff is powered by the folks over at Echelon Front. You really want to know what it means to get simple? You want to get a little deeper dive into that? Go check out Extreme Ownership. Go check out the Extreme Ownership Academy. Go grab the dichotomy of leadership when you realize, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not communicating as well as I thought I did. Find your balance over there in that one, and go check out the newest book. You can pre-order now, The Need to Lead by Dave Burke, which wraps up that trilogy. Join us on the Extreme Ownership Academy Monday afternoon live calls. If you've got some questions that are specific to your business after we cover a topic, then you'll get to hop in and ask some of those questions. I say we, not because I'm one of the instructors, but because I get in on that call and have some of my questions answered. It's an awesome opportunity to get to do that. If you want Echelon Front to come and work with your organization, maybe you feel like you need some one-on-one coaching in this in particular, then send an email to info@echelonfront.com. And after you do that, you might need a little bit of self-care. So head on over to littlecattle.co, where you can get the beautiful beef tallow products that help keep you healthy. If you're a little ashy, grab some of that beef tallow. Maybe you're coming towards the end of mosquito season where you're at, and you need that tallow anti-itch cream. Or, it's time now that the degrees have gotten below triple digits. You're back out in the sun and you're realizing you can still get a little crispy. Get that after sun care if you made the same fair skin mistake that I did on Labor Day. Go check that out. If you need apparel printed, go check out On the Path Printing. Shoot a message to JP or Josh to make sure that your apparel printing needs are taken care of. They've got some really cool stuff that they've done. We sold a ton of the shirts that they designed for us at Jiu-Jitsu Con. The Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu Pray Hard, Train Hard shirts were a huge seller there, especially in the large XL and double X, because that's a print that looks particularly menacing on a big man. So that was really cool. If you aren't familiar with Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu, it's a ministry that JP and I both belong to. We do regular seminars where we bring out a high-level jiu-jitsu competitor, take a break for people to share their testimony, talk about the good things that Christ has done in their life. We get have an awesome time of open mat. After that, if that's a ministry you want to support, or you want to check out the podcast that we do there, or figure out when we got a seminar coming to your area, go to JesusandJujitsuUSA.com. And then once you get your jiu-jitsu, now it's time to get your pew-jitsu on. Go down and check out at Bruiser Arms, where they put together custom gear packages. It's JP, it's Leif, it's Jocko, putting together the packages that they use to protect our country, and maybe the same ones they use to protect their home. You can get custom gear packages and custom training from the folks over at Bruiser Arms, and that wraps us up with the stuff that is most personal to us, because it's the stuff that's closest to our bodies. It's the people over at Origin and Jocko Fuel, the stuff that we put on us and in us. It is the cleanest supplements in the game. If you go to jockofuel.com jockofuel.com and then use code JPPod20, you'll save 20% on all your purchases over at Jocko Fuel. And then go check out the stuff that the guys over at Origin Maine are doing. It's absolutely incredible. It's an all-American supply chain and supply line. Support the red, white, and blue. And big thanks to Amanda and Pete for making that happen, and not only putting on the best jiu-jitsu camp in the game with Emergent Camp, but also for bringing manufacturing back to the United States when nobody thought they could do it. It's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to getting Pete on soon.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So reiterate a few things. Communication needs to be simple, clear, and concise, and it's on you. It's always on you, and it needs to be on you. So just be intentional with your communication. It's a skill set. It's something that we all need to work on to develop, to be more efficient, to be more effective, so that at the end of the day, we and our families, our loved ones, and our teams can go out there and win. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 103.